My top four favorite watch brands and why. To start, here's a couple honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list. That is Grand Seiko, Omega, Glashütte Original, and Zenith. But coming in at number four, as my fourth favorite watch brand to date, is Cartier. Nobody does elegance quite like Cartier does. Every Cartier that I've owned has just been phenomenal in that regard. Dressy, timeless, but still sporty enough to look great in more casual situations. And admittedly, I'm casual 99% of the time. Now, I also enjoy the various stories behind the different models. Each design that I've owned has excellent history that sometimes goes back well over 100 years, as is the case with the Santos being the first real aviation watch in history, or the Tank. Love the Tank. And I, don't put too much stock into this, but Cartier is known amongst non-watch collectors, and they're respected amongst that group because Cartier is more than just a luxury brand. They're more than just a watchmaking house, but I like them because of their watchmaking history and prowess. Some watch collectors say that, having name brand recognition is a must, and you get that with Cartier. I was definitely there at one point in the past, but after time, after experience, after trying some of these big brands, that kind of passed for me. That was a phase that I ended up growing out of. But out of all the Cartier that I've owned, my favorite experience, just looking in hindsight, is the Tank Solo XL. Classic, elegant, beautiful, unique, timeless. Every time I put it on, it put a smile on my face. Now, my wife needs a new watch. Her Citizen finally died. She had an Eco Drive that lasted a long time. But yeah, she needs a new watch. She's never owned a luxury watch. And I showed her a picture of the Tank Must. And now she wants to go try one on in person. And that got me excited. Not just for her potentially getting an awesome watch brand that I love, but selfishly, I could get a Must XL. She could get a small Must. I could get the large version, and we would match. To me, that sounds really fun. Let me know if you agree with that, or let me know if you have a matching watch with your spouse or your significant other. I like the idea. Now, coming in at number three as my third favorite watch brand to date is Breitling. Breitling has such a distinctive style. I think the brand is instantly recognizable even if you're across a room from someone wearing a Breitling. In many cases, their designs are bold, they're large, they have fantastic wrist presence, and I've owned a few different styles, a few different complications from Breitling over the years, but I always come back to their chronographs. I think a chronograph is the brand's bread and butter. They do it so well. Now, I also like their ARC, or anti-reflective coatings. They really enhance the clarity. They cut down on reflections on their sapphire crystals. And I think Breitling is the best in the business at doing great ARC. It's a little detail that really adds a lot to the user experience. Now, I also like the fact that the brand leans very heavily into their storied history, their rich history. So I like the different vintage elements. I like the old school B logo. In fact, in talking about history, I recently heard a great story from a friend who works at Brightling about how Willie Brightling used to stealthily supply Great Britain with cockpit chronographs, with various instruments that they needed during World War II. He did that from neutral Switzerland, and he did that, surrounded by Axis powers at a personal risk. And so, it's little stories like that that add something to a brand. So I love Breitling's style. I love their presence, and I love their history. Out of all the Breitlings that I've owned over the years, my favorite has been the Datura. It's large, it's gorgeous, it's complicated, and I think a little unexpected when you picture Breitling in your head, but I think it's a model that shows off what the brand does so well. Now, coming in at number two as my second favorite watch brand to date, that's Seiko. And I'll never forget my first horological love, Seiko, my first favorite watch brand. I don't know. They're just, how do you describe it? Japanese made, affordable, complete vertical integration, which I respect, and endless options across multiple price points. You will have, you're hard to please if you can't find a Seiko that jumps out to you. I'm partial to their divers, and I've lost count of the number of divers that I've owned in my time as a Seiko path. But I love the retro ones like the Willard. I love the modern classics like the Sumo or the Transocean. And honestly, the brand, at least when it came to divers, was a bit of an acquired taste for me. So years ago when I first saw a Monster, I thought that is the dang ugliest watch that I've ever seen. And that was coming from someone who used to collect oversized Invicta. But sure enough, a few months later, I was buying a Gen 2 Monster and absolutely head over heels. So once I acquired the taste, all hope was lost. I could never return. I'll always love Seiko divers for their sizes, the originality, the case finishing compared to its competition, dial prowess, comfort, lume, the best lume in the business, really. Luma Bright is the most satisfying. I like the distinctive look of a crown at the 4 position, or some of the funky hand designs, or the fully indexed bezel, the curvaceous cases. I don't know, there's something about Seiko divers that really clicks with me. And I think it's hard for a brand to do vintage throwbacks and modern designs well, but I believe Seiko does both with ease and with success. Now, picking a favorite Seiko out of the scores of Seiko that I've tried, it's a bit difficult, right? There's so much to choose from. But I'm going to go with a classic Marine Master 300. I think there just aren't many other divers in the market that have this amount of character. Such a cool watch. A classic MM300 is really hard to beat. Now, coming in at number 1 as my favorite watch brand to date, it's boring, yawn, lame, predictable, I know, but it's the most popular luxury watch brand in the planet. It's Rolex. Let me tell you why. In my experience, no other watch brand has been more reliable, more comfortable, more easy to use, perfectly accurate. I've never had more accurate movements from any other brand. This brand has the best bracelets in the business, the best bezel action, the best clasps, the best adjustability. Really, they do so many things so well, even down to the excellent lume. They make thin watches, and that's a big deal. Most of their watches wear thinner than the competition, and that makes a difference on the wrist. And speaking as someone who does buy, sell, and trade regularly, I do appreciate that the brand holds value well. That's a good thing. I don't like losing money on watches. I've lost a ton of money on watches over the years, but I've always done pretty well with Rolex. Now, I don't care for the 80 games of being classified as worthy or worthy enough to be a customer, to be offered a watch to purchase. I think all of that is absolute nonsense. It is one of, if not the worst things about our passion of collecting watches, but there's no denying when you look at the product, Rolex makes bulletproof models that are fun to wear, and so that's why they're number 1 to me. Picking a favorite out of the various Rolex that I've owned is very difficult because, I don't know, there's something to be said about the Sky Dweller with its size and how complicated it is. But there's also something to be said about the brand color of the Hulk and how easy that watch is to wear. But I think I've got to pick the Day-Date. This is the one that I wear most often. I just love the design. I love the bracelet. I love the color, the all yellow gold look. This is timeless. This is beautiful. This has a great complication, execution. And I'd have to say it's been the best experience if I had to choose one. But let me know what you think. Tell me your top 3 or 4 watch brands in the comment section. Tell me why. I'll read every comment. I appreciate you watching today. Please like, please subscribe. I'll see you next time.